Dear students, in this session we will discuss fourth lab program from Machine Learning Lab. The aim of this lab program is to build an artificial neural network by implementing the back propagation algorithm and test the same using appropriate data set. So here we are using back propagation algorithm to build artificial neural network. So what is artificial neural network? It is the computational model designed to simulate the way the human brain analyzes and processes information. It is the foundation of artificial intelligence, AI. So this artificial neural network, it solves the problem that would have proved impossible or difficult to solve by humans or by using statistical standards. So these difficult problems we can solve by using artificial neural network. So it has its own self-learning capabilities that enable them to produce better results as more data becomes available. So ANN has 3 or more layers that are interconnected, just like neurons in a human brain. So here the first layer consists of input neurons. Those neurons send data onto the deeper layers or hidden layers, which in turn will send the final output data to the last output layer. So here these artificial neural networks are built like the human brain, with the neuron nodes interconnected like a web. As you know, the human brain has hundreds of billions of cells called neurons, and this neuron is made up of a cell body that is responsible for processing the information by carrying information from the outside world or other parts of our body and taking away the output or the information from the brain to all outside world or other parts of the body. So here the artificial neural network has hundreds or thousands of artificial neurons, just like neurons in a human body, which is called processing units, which are interconnected by nodes. So these processing units are made up of input and output units. The input units receive the information or various forms and structure, and based on the internal weighting system, and the neural network attempts to learn about the information presented to the network and produce one output report. So just like humans need rules and guidelines to come up with a result or output, so here we use back propagation algorithms to get the output. So this is how the artificial neural network works. So there are two popular algorithms. One is forward propagation and backward propagation algorithm. So what is back propagation algorithm? The back propagation algorithm is supervised learning method for multi-layer feed forward network from the field of artificial neural network. So the back propagation algorithm, it is the essence of neural network training. It is a method of fine-tuning the weights of neural network based on the error rate obtained in the previous iteration. Proper tuning of the weights allows you to reduce error rates and to make the model reliable by increasing its generalization. So back propagation is a short form for backward propagation of errors. So that is the back propagation. The actual name for this algorithm is backward propagation of errors algorithm. So the short form we use it as back propagation. It is a standard method of training artificial neural network. So this method helps to calculate the gradient of loss function with respect to all the weights in the network. So the name, why we call this as a back propagation, so it moves in the backward direction. So that means it starts from the output layer and it will move the data information from the output layer to hidden layer and from hidden layer to the input layer. So that's why the name back propagation algorithm. So in this we'll study the learning stages of artificial neural network. So there are 6 stages in the artificial neural network. So the first stage is initialization. So in the initialization stage, initial weights are applied to all the neurons. In the second stage, the forward propagation, the inputs from the training set are passed through the neural network and an output is computed. And in the third stage, that is the error function. So because we are working with the training set, the correct output is known. And here in the output layer, an error function is defined which captures the delta between the correct output and actual output of the model for the given current model weights. So here it will find out the difference in the desired value, that is the actual output and predicted output, and then based on the errors calculated in the output layer, the back propagation algorithm works. So the objective of back propagation algorithm is to change the weights of the neuron in order to bring the error function to a minimum. So based on the activation function, weights value and bias value, the back propagation will update the weights based on these factors, and it will give those weights to the hidden layer, from the output layer to hidden layer and from hidden layer to input layer. Again, this input layer will take the updated weights and bias value, and again it will start executing based on the forward propagation, and then again it will calculate the predicted output. So then these will continue for the iterations, for number of iteration, and finally we will be getting a optimum results or optimum output. So this is back propagation algorithm. So this algorithm takes input parameter as training examples, learning data, that is eta value is nothing but learning rate, then number of input neurons, number of output neurons, number of hidden neurons or hidden layer. Each training example is a pair of the form x, t. So here x is the vector of network input values and the t is the vector of target network output values, and eta is the learning rate, and n in is the number of network inputs, n hidden is the number of units in the hidden layer, and n out is the number of output units. The input from unit I into unit j is denoted as xji, and the weight from unit I in I to unit j is denoted as wji. So here the weights to calculate input for the hidden layer from the input layer. So it will have the input value plus the weight. So weight will be taken as wij from input layer to output layer. So here we are taking it as wji. Okay, so then w from here to here we are taking it as wjk from hidden layer to output layer. So in the first step, create a feed forward network with the number of input units in the input layer and the number of hidden units in the hidden layer and number of output units. Then initialize all network weights to small random numbers. So here using a random numbers will generate the weights for these layers. Then until the termination condition is met. So here we'll give a termination condition and a number of iteration, that many number of iteration these algorithms should execute. So next, for each training example and the target value t is nothing but a output value. Okay, actual output value. X is nothing but a input value. In training examples, do propagate the input forward through the network. So first, in the first stage, we will initialize, then we will use a forward propagation algorithm. So here, input the instance X to the network and compute the output 0 of every unit U in the network. So first we will apply input into the input layer. Then from the input layer, that will be forwarded along with the weights and bias value to the hidden value. Using an activation function, it calculates the result here, and that will be forwarded to the output layer. So from the output layer, the whatever the results it generates, that is the predicted output. So then propagate the errors backward through the network. So at the output layer, it will calculate the difference of actual output minus predicted output. So it will get the error value. So for each network output unit K, calculates its error term delta K. So delta K is nothing but error value at the output layer K. So this is the formula what we use to calculate the error term at the output layer K. Then for each hidden unit H, calculate its error term delta H. So next, after output layer, then we have to calculate the error term in the hidden layers. That means how much hidden layer contributed to generate the error. So this is the formula for generating the delta H value. Then based on this delta K and delta H, we'll update each network's weight. Okay, so this is the formula what we use to update the weights in the output layer and the hidden layer. So then again, after updating the weights, again it will go to the this particular step. It starts again propagating the input forward through the network. Again, all these procedure will repeat until we get a optimized results or accurate results, which is very much near to the actual output value. So this is how the back propagation algorithm works. So next we'll see the program, the implementation of this problem statement. So I will take you to the Jupyter notebook. So this is the program for this problem statement. So first we need to import NumPy library. So this is one of the very important Python library used for statistical computation. So NumPy, actually it stands for numerical Python. So this is a open source Python library. So here this NumPy we used to compute a very high means complicated array structure or multi-dimensional array structure. So for those kind of data, we use this NumPy library package in the Python. So here what we have to do is just import the library by using the import function, import NumPy as a NP. So NP is the object for this library. So next, X is nothing but a input value. Okay, so here we are taking a student data set. So in the student data set, we have two features, that is hours studied and hours slept. So here if you take this as an input, so we'll call this NumPy by using the NumPy library, we call a function array. So this will form an array structure for this data set. So X is the input value. It has two features. One is hours studied and hours slept. So if he studies for 2 hours and he is sleeping for 9 hours, that is the data set what we are taking here with two features. And output value is nothing but the percentage or the test score of that particular student. Okay, so here for this input, this is the output value. So this input, this is the output, and this input value, this is the output value. So again, this output value also we are taking in terms in the format of array structure by using NumPy library function array. So this represents in a percentage wise, means if the students studies for 2 hours and sleep for 9 hours, he will be able to score 92% in the test. If he studies for 1 hour and sleep for 5 years, the test score is 86%. If he studies for 3 hours and sleep for 6 hours, then it is 89%. So that is the data set we are taking here, and then we'll normalize this value because the maximum test score is 100. So we want to do a normalization here. So we'll divide this output value with divided by 100. So that will be updated in the output value y. So next we will define a sigmoid function. So sigmoid function is nothing but it is an activation function used in the neural network. So this function is nothing but it is a S-shaped graph function. So here and this function maps any value between 0 and 1. Okay, so this is the expression used for the sigmoid function. Actually this is a non-linear function. Whenever there is a small change in the input value x, so this sigmoid function will brings about the large, means if there is any small change in the input value, there is a small change, means large changes might occur in the output value. So that changes how much the value changes between this input value and output value. So that will be calculated by using this activation function. So here there are many activation functions. So here in this program we are using sigmoid function. So this sigmoid activation function, it decides whether a neuron should be activated or not by calculating the weighted sum and the bias value with it. So it will take bias value and weight value of the neurons, and based on that it will activate the neurons. So that is what activation function will do. Then next we will define derivatives of sigmoid function. So these derivatives of sigmoid function will measure the changes between the in terms of input value. So the changes in the input value that will be measured using these derivatives of sigmoid function. The next is variable initialization. So here we have to initialize the iteration, the number of iteration we want to train this neural network. So here we are taking 10,000 iterations. Then we need to set the learning rate. So here learning rate we are taking 0.1. Then number of input neurons, input layer neurons, that is input units, we are taking 2 because there are 2 features in the data set, that is study hour and sleeping hour. Then hidden layer neurons, we are taking 3 hidden layer units neurons. Then output neuron we are taking 1. So here it is the actual output, that is a test score. So we are taking 1 unit. So then after variable initialization we need to initialize the weight and the bias value. Okay, so to get the activation function. So here first we will initialize weight value for the hidden layer. Okay, so WH, the weight for the hidden layer. So here how to calculate the weight for the hidden layer. So we use NumPy Python library, and we'll call a function random. So random function. So here this random function uniformly it will randomly it will give the values for the weight. So here this weight value will it will be assigned from input layer neurons to hidden layer neurons. So this weight is for input layer neurons to the hidden layer neurons. Then next we will initialize bias value for the hidden layer. So same method, same function will call here from the NumPy library, that is random function, and this bias value is for the hidden layer. So bias matrix to the hidden layer. Then weight value for the hidden. So that is for the from the hidden layer neurons to the output neurons. Okay, so this weight value is for the hidden layer to output neurons. The first one is from the input neurons to hidden layer. So next bias value for the output layer. So same, so this is the bias value for the output neurons. So then once the initialization of weights and bias value is done, next we will apply forward propagation algorithm. So for the forward propagation algorithm, we need to initialize the, means we have to take the iteration. So one by one we need to take these, we need to execute these function. So in the first iteration, first what we will do, we have to take the input value and weight in the forward propagation. So it will take the dot operation on the input value and the weight which is initialized here from the input neurons to hidden layer. So forward propagation means it will move forward, means in the forward direction from input layer to hidden layer to output layer. So now here we will perform a dot operation on the input value and weight which is assigned from the input layer to the hidden layer. Then we will get this result, and this result will be added, the weight value whatever is calculated, that will be added to the bias value of the hidden layer, and the output what we got for the hidden layer, that will be given to the activation function, that is sigmoid of HINP. So this is nothing but this will activate the activation function for the hidden layer. Okay, so that is the output input for the hidden layer. So next we have to calculate the input for the output layer from the hidden layer to the output layer. So again here what we do, we will take the result of the activation function from the hidden layer, that result, the value we will take in, then the weight of the hidden layer. So we will perform a dot operation on this, then the result what we got, that will added with the bias value. So bias value is nothing but it is one of the special parameter which is used along with the weight of the weight in the neural network to get the which will take it into a activation function, and this value will be applied to the activation function. Based on this value we will activate the activation function, that is sigmoid function, and finally from the output layer we will get the output, predicted output value. So activation function will generate the output, that is predicted output in the output layer. So this is how the forward propagation works. So now once the output is generated in the output layer, then we need to calculate the errors, and if the error is then based on that error we need to calculate the gradient descent, and we need to apply the back propagation algorithm. Then we need to update the weights, and again we need to give that updated weights to all the layers, and again it will start from the forward propagation. Again we'll train the neural network with the updated weights and bias value. So now we'll see how the back propagation works here. So first it will compare the prediction with the actual output and calculate the gradient of error by taking actual minus predicted output. So that is nothing but errors which is generated at the output layer. So y is your actual output and output is nothing but the predicted output. So next the error whatever it is generated, that will given to the derivatives of sigmoid function to calculate a gradient descent. So that is compute the slope / gradient of hidden and output layer neuron. So it will calculate the gradient descent values of means the loss function value for the output layer. So then that will be added or multiplied with the errors which is generated at the output layer, and that will give the gradient descents of the output layer. So this computes change factor delta. So this is a delta value at the output layer. At the output layer dependent on the gradient of error multiplied by the slope of output layer activation. So this is the delta K as per our algorithm. Okay, so then we need to calculate error which is generated at the hidden layer, the same procedure. So here we will take the descent gradient at the output. So hidden layer, again we need to consider the errors which is the gradient descent at the output layer also. So output layer dot function will apply dot function with the weights in the hidden layer. So at this step the error will propagate back into the network, which means the error at hidden layer. We will take the dot product of output layer delta value with weight parameters of edges between the hidden and output layer. So now we'll calculate error in the hidden layer. Then we'll calculate the how much hidden layer weight contributed to the error which is generated at the output layer. So for that we use this we'll call the sigmoid derivative function with the hidden layer activation value. So here we will it will generate hidden gradient descent value, multiply that with the errors at the hidden layer. So we will get the delta of delta H. Okay, so in the algorithm what we saw, the delta H, which is the gradient descent at the hidden layer. Okay, errors which is contributed by the hidden layer, so that is nothing but delta H. So once the delta H and delta K is calculated, then we need to update the weights. So these statements we use to update the weights in the hidden layer and output layer. So now weight at the hidden layer we will update by using hidden layer activation value with respect to the target value dot output, the descent gradient at the output layer into learning rate. Then bias value. So both we need to update, weights and bias value. So bias values at the hidden layer, again sum of we'll take the sum of the descent gradient at the hidden layer and we'll take some value, the dimension value, into learning rate. Okay, so then again we'll update the weights at the output layer with respect to the hidden layer and bias values at the output layer. So by using these statements and learning rate, we will update the weights and bias value. So when next time when we run the program, so what happened, these updated weights will be taken as the input for the forward propagation, and again it will train the neural network and it will get a prediction. It will give the predicted value. So next we will print the input, that is nothing but we will take the from the array we will print the input value x, then we will print actual output. Okay, so that is y, then predicted output, so that what will be stored in the variable output. So when I run this, this is the output what you will get. So first is the input, so that is the study hour and sleeping hour for three from the student data set, then actual output in this form and predicted output. So here you can see the difference. Actual output is 0.92 and here predicted output for the first data set it is 0.89. So there is a errors which is induced in the predicted output, the difference between actual output and the predicted output. So what happens if you run once again? So these predicted output value will change. Okay, so now we have updated the weights and bias value. When I run next time, it will take the updated weights and bias value to calculate the predicted output. So now just see this, here 0.8937, here 8808 and 8942. So I will run once again here. So first value is 8937. See, here it is changed. So it was 8937, now it is 8943. So it is getting more and more accurate. Okay, so this is the building artificial neural network using back propagation algorithm. So in this format you will get the output. Thank you.